My name is Eric Van Horn. I bought my first franchise in my 20s, and since then, I've owned 6 brands with 25 stores in 8 states. I've also helped 1,000 people find the right franchise for them. People like us who are not cut out for the 9 to 5 and like to work smarter, not harder. How do we find the right franchise, buy it, grow it, sell it, and how do we do it in a way to own the business without it owning us? Those are the questions, and I'm on a mission to give you the answers. Welcome to Franchise Secrets. Welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Eric Van Horn here with Heidi Morrissey. She is president, CEO of Kitche Tune-Up, and it is based in South Dakota. So we connected, and I'm like, wow, another person that's in franchising from South Dakota. So I needed to get her on here, especially after we had some conversations about what she's doing and how the business has grown, and especially in today's environment of pivoting. But before we get to that, I want to let everybody know that I do have a private Facebook group for franchisees, and just go to franchisetribe.com, And if you're a franchisee, get in there. I'm giving a lot of really good information. It used to be about how to grow and scale your franchise. Right now it's how to survive and then scale your franchise, but we're definitely in that kind of survival mode. But let's get back to the show. Heidi, welcome.
Well, thank you, Eric. Glad to be here.
Now, it was a while ago. It was before all the craziness of today, but I found it fascinating just hearing your story on how you got started in franchising. It's kind of the family business. So why don't you give the audience a little bit of your background and the background of Kitche Tune-Up, and then let's jump into some question and answer.
Okay, you bet. So, I had no intention of actually being in franchising ever or being part of the family business. My dad had a family business, a cabinet business for many years. And when I was going to college, he was starting Kitche Tune-Up. And I thought, interesting little thing, didn't know much about it. I went on, became a teacher, met my husband, who's also a teacher. We moved to Wisconsin. We had 3 daughters. And while we were there, I stopped teaching, but we needed more income. So I started in direct sales. And what I learned in direct sales was how important training was and having processes. And I was doing a lot of that for my direct sales business. And my dad was watching me from afar, and he thought, he could sure use somebody doing that in the company. And he kept approaching me, and I just didn't have an interest. I kept saying, Dad, I don't know that we would get along, and I don't know if I want to live in South Dakota again. I'm not sure. And, I said, he finally pulled the grandparent card on me and said, don't you think the grandkids would like to be close to the grandparents? My dad's a great salesperson. And I thought, okay, we'll try it. So we came here with a 1-year intention, my husband taking a leave of absence from his job, and ended up falling in love with franchising. When I started working with owners and realizing, what they were giving up to be an entrepreneur, to kind of come into this, I thought, we've got to help them. We got to do things and we got to train. And so I jumped all in, got my CFE through IFA. That's a lot of acronyms, but, got my certified franchise executive, and, really just started to work on processes in our business. And so when I worked with my dad we still work together. He's still around.
So he founded the company.
That's right. He founded the company from a need from his original company, Cabinets Universal. So he went through a recession in the 80s, which pivoted his business to a service business.
So, okay. And we're going to talk about some of this stuff with the recession. So he had a cabinet business, pivoted into more kitchen remodeling.
He was doing kitchen remodeling. He pivoted to a little tune-up service to help the wood. So he was trying to figure out a way to keep his people busy, right? Mm-hmm. How is he going? So he just started with something called the Kitche Tune-Up. It was a 2 to 3 hour restoration of your cabinets. And from that, it really became so popular, and he didn't think anyone else was doing it. And so he learned about franchising. He decided to franchise just that one service as a part-time business when he started. Mm-hmm. And of course, with franchises, when you collectively work with them, you come up with more ideas. And it became more and more of a remodeling company, updating, upscaling, all those things that we can do now with a kitchen. But, that kind of came more organically with the owners.
Let's go back to your direct sales. You mentioned the word direct sales, and I think a lot of franchisors miss it when it comes to sales because executives in leadership don't really have a sales mindset. And so what was the direct sales?
So I was scrapbooking. It was a big company. It was just starting in the 80s or the 90s when I started. It was really new. And so when I started in Wisconsin, I was one of the first consultants there. And I ended up growing a team of about 60 downline under me. And so, it's kind of like the marketing used to go out and do the home parties and you would sell and we'd have to train people because there was a ton of people that wanted to do this, but they had no idea how to get in front of a group and talk and train and sell.
So much good stuff that comes out of that sales and just cutting your teeth in that. I know people that have sold vacuums. I know, a number of people that are in the Cutco world and they train their people how to sell. And then that goes into marketing. So you were the salesperson because you understood direct sales. What about the marketing aspect of it? Was that part of your expertise as well?
Yeah, well, it became part of my expertise. When I started and we really had no budget, I had to learn how to go out and do a lot of grassroots marketing when I started. About 2 to 3 years into my business, if I saw somebody at Walmart, they'd go, "There's that scrapbook lady." So I had done my part of marketing myself in the community. Because I spoke at every group, I went out and I did as much free type of publicity that I could get. And I got a lot of it. And so it made my business really successful. So that was kind of more of something I had to learn. And it was really learning it through practicing it. So when I came to Kitchen Tune-Up, one of the things that I noticed that there really wasn't like a VP of sales and marketing. I wasn't aspiring to be that, by the way. I came in thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to help Dad with what he needs. And when I started to see the gaps in the training, the first thing was to revamp the training. Second was, who's really supporting the owners in helping them to get their sales? Who's talking to them about their marketing? And when I came, a lot of the marketing that we were doing in-house, it was happening like in PowerPoint. It was like a PowerPoint ad. Of course, the newspapers loved it because they love PowerPoint. They don't. So we had to come up with a lot of ways. My dad's very budget conscious. He was really good with money. We've never borrowed money. Company's never owed money. And because of that, everything that we did in our company had to be done as cheaply as possible, but still look like a good brand, right? So there was a lot of learning that. So definitely, dug right into as much training as I could get. I was getting training through everything, marketing and sales and franchising. So yeah, it was a couple of years of really just a lot of self-taught stuff. But yeah, it wasn't my degree, but certainly came in and helped to rebrand the company and do national advertising, all that good stuff.
You and I were talking before this coronavirus really was a thing. And then the last week, so that set the stage, last week is really when all the shutdowns began. And here in South Dakota, I don't think half the people even think that it's a real thing. I mean, life is going on as normal here, but we understand what's going out there in the rest of the world. And we're pivoting, we're doing things, we're making decisions. And so what is going on in your world as a franchisor dealing with the unknown? Really, that's what it is. Unknown and wanting to pivot again.
It is. It's communication, right? We all know that when you're nervous, you're scared, the worst thing you can do is turn the phone off and not be available. So the very first thing we did, so as I told you, we were in training school when this all unfolded. We had 6 owners here and they were training and they came in all excited. And by Friday, we have this big shutdown. And so they're doing great. I'm working with them to make sure they feel good. I'm offering them, hey, if you guys need to go home, if you need to do something different, please let us know. And they were all, no, we want to be here. And at the same time, I'm working with our franchise owners who are just starting to feel some impacts. So the first thing I did was I addressed the entire team with great communication. I just started saying, listen, guys, here's an email. Here's what we're going to do. We don't know what's going on, but here's what we think is going to happen. One is you're going to need to do virtual sales calls for a while. That was we did that by that Friday. We taught everyone how to use, Zoom and different tools that said, listen, start offering it. We created new images for Facebook. We didn't want to be tone deaf with our happy spring. What's going on? Because, you give them a month at a time and everything's already pre-posted. So we pulled all those down and we said, we're going to create new stuff. It's not necessarily to sell. It's to stay connected with your community.
That's a good point because now really is not the time to sell. I mean, I think but a lot of people get that. But when we're going through what we're going through right now, and again, people are going to be listening to this, having full context that we don't have right now. But people don't want to be sold something right now.
That's right.
They
really don't.
There's a lot of communication and there's this environment of giving. People are giving a lot. So that's the environment that we're in today. You started communicating that you took down all the old ads that was like, hey, it's springtime. Why don't you do this and buy that? And,
that's right.
And that's all ended now. It's like, how are you creating community? Is there such a thing as creating community in your environment?
Definitely. We know people are in their homes right now. And so what things are they wanting to do? They want activities for their kids. They want
Mhm.
activities for themselves. So when we find something, we're reposting that so that people can get the free Audible books for their kids. They know that here's some recipes for under 3 ingredients or less, right? Here are some things because the engagement and the community factor, and some of our owners, of course, are doing things, socially conscious things in their community,
Mhm.
and we want to inspire others, not beg, but to inspire people to say, listen, you could do this too.
Yep.
You might feel powerless right now, but guess what? There is something that every one of us can do.
What are some of the things that you see people doing out there?
So definitely donating food, of course, has
Mhm.
been something, and food banks has been a big thing for people. We definitely are having people have these conversations like, let's talk about our employees right now. How are we going to take care of our employees during this time? Because they're fearful. So there's a lot of things that you can do on Facebook and through your own training to help everybody get through this because it's all about the communication. Hey, we don't know either. I don't have a crystal ball.
Yep.
I don't know how long this is going to go, but in the meantime, here's conversations that you can have. Here's questions. If you are still going into the home, here's a list of things that you should be talking about before you get there. Here's how to keep everybody safe.
Mhm.
Here are some new steps. I've got owners that created really amazing sheets. They're taking off their shoes and changing out shoes. They're putting on gloves. They're cleaning everything in front of them. They're letting the customer not even be in the room if they don't want to be, so that we can have that social distancing. And so all of that's a whole new world, but it pivoted within hours.
Let's rewind to the last time we had a recession and it was '08, right? And it was real estate. It was very different than what we're experiencing today. But what was that time like for you guys and what did you learn during that time to where you are now?
Yeah. The biggest thing we really learned was to pivot faster. A lot of times when something happens, people sit back and they wait to see, I wonder what the results, I wonder if this is going to be a month or 2 months, or it doesn't matter. Even if you pivot now and you have activity and positivity going forward, that's what
Mhm.
keeps people engaged. It's like when you just sit back and wait, everyone's minds will create some other, stories and another narrative that's not always positive. But if everyone's busy, everyone's doing things, and we're all pivoting, people aren't going to get despondent. They're not going to be upset because they've got something to do today. And I think I found that was critical, as well as more communication. They need to hear that the leaders of their company, they're not nervous, they're not scared, they see the future.
How do you balance the we're not nervous, we're not scared, and provide leadership as a franchisor when there are times that we don't know what's going on? How do you balance that?
You have to be all in. I'm all in with this company. And one of the things that I told our franchises was, listen, if you're shut down, we're not going to charge you minimum royalties. We're not going to charge you guys fees during this time. I mean, how selfish would that be?
What do you mean by fees? Like, give me some examples.
Well, anything that would be due right now, if they're shut down, we're not charging them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they need to keep their cash. I want them to protect their business and their employees. I think that's critical.
This is a franchisor that is really franchisee focused. I mean, and I see the best and the worst coming out in franchisors right now. I see some of them, that communication, like you said, it sounds so easy, just the communication word and talk to your franchisees. But as a franchisee myself and new franchisor, and then just hearing in this Facebook group, the franchise tribe that I have, all these franchisees, the more communication that the franchisor is giving them, like we have, like a daily or, multiple times a week having calls with your franchisees or updates. Yeah. Consistency is very appreciated by your franchisees. So I love it. You can't really over communicate during this time, and they need it. What kind of feedback are you getting from your franchisees?
Amazing. Again, they're amazing. They are saying they so appreciate the calm and the, giving them tasks, things to do. If you're closed right now, guess what you can still do. And here are some things to keep you busy right now. I think just having that mindset that things are going to work out. We looked at our numbers and we're lucky. We're coming off an amazing year. Last year. 2019 was so amazing for everybody. And so luckily, we can say, listen, guys, we know we can go for a while. The other thing is, not laying off people at the home office, right? That makes people nervous right away.
Yeah.
When you do that. So
because a lot of people are laying off people right now. I had to lay off people. And as a franchisor, have you guys laid off anybody?
No. And we won't.
That is your words being backed up by action. And that shows strength at the franchisor level. Also shows that you've been managing things correctly up to this point, and you've got good people there. Are your franchisees, have they laid off anybody, or is the model more, is the model not employees?
No, they do have employees. And so far, they're all trying to keep them, at some level of finance. They all get it, right? You kind of model things, for people, and people are important. If you've got people that got you to where you're at right now, you certainly don't abandon them when things get tough. Instead you turn around and say, what can we do? And, my top group of my top executives here at our office, every single one of them came to me last week and said, if you need to cut my salary so everybody else can stay here, then cut my salary.
What a great group of people.
Culture. It's a culture thing. And
has it always been that way?
It kind of has. I mean, it's shifted and changed a little bit because I think my style is just slightly different than my dad.
Do you think slightly or a lot?
I think slightly. I think my dad,
because you're same blood.
My dad really, really cared about people a lot, and he still cares about people. He didn't have the same ability necessarily to tell people that, to communicate it, but he always did. He did things people didn't know all the good he was doing. He didn't really say a lot about it. So a lot of people, but he had a lot of loyalty in the system. Owners really love my dad, and they really are appreciative of him stepping up and doing what he did as a founder. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could be a founder, to be honest. I don't know that I have that risk level that my dad had, but I do know that when I get here, I'm all in and I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep it growing and being successful. So
how do you take care of your top franchisees? Like, how do you, because a lot of systems, they really cater to that middle ground, the middle 80%. And then the top 10% of the franchisees, there's not a lot for them. How is that in your franchise?
Yeah, this is something you and I talked about on our very first call. And, interestingly, this year, I don't know what the foresight was for this, but we started something called K2 Connect. And every one of my coaches took on a group of our owners, and they are now kind of talking to them and saying, do you want to talk weekly, monthly, quarterly? So when this all hit, I said to my connectors, I said, everybody call your Connect today. Everyone call your Toonie, right? Make sure that they're okay. And so we did that. And so with the top group, what I did is I said, listen, this year is all about me nurturing that top franchise group. And so we started a mastermind, and we actually had it yesterday still, because these are people that are like, I said, listen, guys, you're leaders. You're going to show everybody, because you have further to fall than somebody else. So what are we going to do to keep you guys engaged and going forward? And, look at what the mandate is in your state, and, what else can we do? And it was a great meeting. It was an hour and a half, because I give them every week, I give them at least an hour and a half. And then I talked to a lot of them over the weekend. I did probably 8 phone calls with franchises, and almost all of them are my top performers. They all wanted to talk about employee situations. They wanted to talk about what the pivot could be. Mm-hmm. As I told my husband, as I got another text saying, can you talk now? I said, this is who they need me right now. And so I'm going to be there for everybody. So, I'm going to keep on doing this. And he goes, no problem. I know you. He goes, you're going to keep on. And so, yeah, you work with them, and everything we develop right now, or at least that I work on personally, has been really to help them to further their business. We had a group of them, our largest franchises, all make a commitment this year that they want to double their sales. And so it was amazing. Everybody they got all in on the doubling the sales. We started this mastermind and talking. And you know what? Even yesterday, they were still saying, we're still going to double our sales. This is all going to come back. And so that optimism, that entrepreneurial, that ability to pivot. And one of the biggest things that we're pivoting right now, which has been, it's really interesting what they come up with sometimes, besides the.
And you're talking about your franchisees.
Yeah, franchisees, what they're coming up with. So we had the online sales calls, and then I have this great franchisee in Denver, Colorado. I have a lot of great franchises in Denver, but this is a younger couple that just started about a year ago. And they're like, what do you think about a DIY kit that we could do? And we could do virtual, like teach them how to measure, do that, have them drop ship, give them the tools. I'm like, let's do it. So already today we've got like 5 sheets ready to go out for the owners so they can go ahead and offer this. And I have a call with our whole system at 1:00 today, and I plan on going over this program with them. We're going to do a spring cleaning challenge on Facebook with our, with all of our networks, so that we can get people inspired while you're home anyway. Let's each take a task a day, and we're going to do it with them. And we're going to show them, through pictures and through videos, how we're kind of there with them right now. And we're not really worried about the selling part. That's all going to come back.
I like these challenge things. I was talking to a friend of mine he helps a lot of businesses do challenges or helps them, with everything about a challenge. So where did the idea of a challenge come about, and what does that look like practically?
So the challenge came about in my office yesterday with my marketing team. And we were talking. We do things pretty quick here, Eric.
Yes, I can see that. Well, you have to be nimble right now. So it was yesterday that the whole challenge thing came up.
We came up with a challenge. And we were talking about what we were going to do for our April post for Facebook and what ideas. And I said, guys, everybody's in this cleaning mode right now, right? I mean, we're all like, what can we clean? What can we, I said, and it's spring cleaning. And so let's do some sort of a challenge. And one of our owners had sent over a calendar list. She's from Michigan, so she was concerned about how she's going to stay connected. And she's like, do you think we could do something like every day post something on this calendar? And I'm like, let's make that the challenge. Let's take this calendar and take those tasks and make that into, and so we talked to the owner and she's like, oh, that would be great. You guys going to do all the posts? Yeah, we'll do all the images. We'll do all the graphic for it and stuff and the design. And so today we're going to talk about that. And like I said, it's more about keeping our franchises having something to do every day when they don't have their normal busy day, right? It's getting your brain away from the news headlines.
Yep.
Everything coming at you all day long. Sometimes if you are just focused and you can do other things that keep you moving forward, your brain just doesn't look at that negativity that's constantly there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, I'm in my Facebook group a lot and helping different people. And I just realized I go all day without watching the news. Now I'm getting information, but it's actually helpful information, not just news. Because news they're just putting out, oh my gosh, it's the news. You're not really, no matter what you're listening to, you're just listening to, whatever they want you to listen to. But I go and what I've been putting in my Facebook group are like real actionable things, like documents that franchisees can use or write-ups from companies that are, in the real estate space or the private equity world that are putting out really good content of like things that you should be reading, not listening to the headlines from the news based off of whatever political party you're the most, most aware of or like the most, because you're not really going to get really good actionable information. Hey, it's Eric here. I hear from a lot of people that they're looking to buy their first brand or maybe their second or third brand, and they're not sure where to start or they're not sure if they're looking in the right places. Well, that's where I come in. I help people find really good brands. And if you're thinking about your second or third or maybe your first brand, let's set up a time to talk. You can go to talkwitheric.com. That's ERIK, talkwitheric.com. Now back to the show. Are you guys doing anything with Facebook groups in your challenge? Or is it all, is it just like Facebook posting or social media posting? What does that look like?
So, I hadn't thought about the group idea, Eric. That's a great idea.
I might have to charge you for that.
I might be pivoting right now.
Yes. We probably should talk about, offline after this, talk about the challenge, because I've got a lot of really good resources for that, and that people are really, doing really well with a lot of these challenges. It was in the fitness space a while ago where a lot of the challenge type language came about. Yeah. And then there's just some different online, everyone has there's bigger social media challenges, whatever it is. I think my girls upstairs were just telling me about some type of like grandma Macarena challenge. I don't even know what that is, or if it's just like a little thing going on in our town right now. But the challenges have been around for a while.
Yes.
But it's a great way to get engagement and community. So I wonder if there's something that would be interesting for you guys with a Facebook group to bring in more people within that, or that might be something interesting for you guys to look at, because I do know Facebook is giving groups a priority right now.
Interesting.
And like in their content. So like if I have my group for franchisees, and I have a group for people that are looking to buy a franchise as well, and they can get into that group. But then when I post something on there, most people see it. Versus if I was just to post something on Facebook, that group really wouldn't see it. So that's one nice thing about Facebook groups. Yeah. And I know Facebook in general, they put an ad on the Super Bowl about Facebook groups. So that's what they're wanting to do. So anyway, something for you just to think about if Facebook groups would be able to fit into that challenge in some way. What do you want out of that challenge? What's the end result of that?
The end result is just having conversations with our community and letting them know that we're still here for them, right? Like right now, it's been crazy. Facebook has been blowing up for us ad wise right now. And even though we're not really doing anything that is, pushing a certain
Hmm.
service or something, we are getting so much engagement because people are home. They're sitting
Yes.
in their kitchen and they're going, you know, this kitchen is not what I want.
Yep.
And then you add to that, I bought more groceries than I've ever bought and I don't have
Yep.
anywhere to put it.
Yep.
So all of a sudden we're having all these conversations. So we're offering right now just free 10-minute little consultations if they want to do it on the phone
That's
with
great.
let's talk about it right now. Let's get some ideas going. And that way, when we are ready, so the cleaning up one is just engagement. It's just saying to people, listen, we know you're home. You're going stir crazy. Here's something to do. Here's something that you can do and take pride in. You could take a picture, you and your family, that we did this task. And you guys can have that. You can get the kudos. You can get the likes. You can get that acknowledgement that there's still a community and there's a social community around it.
I've been helping more franchisors with some of their social media stuff like this. And so you have a regular Facebook following, right? Like, is it just a page or do you have a larger group for yourself?
So we have Kitchen Tune-Up has one, of course, and each of our owners have their page, which we co-manage with them so that we can put things on there whenever. We also have a private group for our K2 franchises. We have one for potential franchises that come in and talk. And then we've got one for our masterminds. So we've got all those different little groups kind of going on and managing them. So I just hadn't, we talk about events, you put in events like when a reunion's coming or something, or when our home shows happen. A lot of our owners will do an event and invite all of their followers to come to the home show through an event. But the group idea I hadn't thought about for this challenge, but you could get kudos from New York for that person doing it in California. That would be really cool. Yeah.
So think about this too. Why don't you do a virtual home show?
We've done 2 of them already.
That's great.
Isn't that crazy?
That
We've
is.
done 2 in 2 weeks. How in the world how do the owners are that resilient, that amazing that they will pivot so quickly? But we've done 2 and we're putting out some more ideas today for people because a lot of home shows got canceled at the end of the spring.
That's fantastic. I love it. So one other thing with that. So what about you guys doing some, just call it a hot seat? So I'm going to be doing hot seats in my Facebook group where I will have franchisees say, I need help with some marketing ideas. I need some help with just, navigating this time or whatever. And it's going to be me and a special guest. Then we will just have someone come on live and they'll talk about what their problem is. Give us the problem within like 60 seconds. So be concise, give us the problem, and then we're going to advise you on that problem. What if you did something like that inside Facebook? You did a Facebook Live or something like that on Zoom, because you can do Zoom to Facebook Live. And then you have a customer that said, so do what you do privately, but do it live and let people see it. That might be something interesting as well.
That is a very cool idea. I think that the one thing about entrepreneurs is ideas are never lacking.
It's executing.
It is. The ideas are there. And then you've got to give all of the different, here's how you do it. Here's your package, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the benefit, ideally, of a group of people and franchises working together, is that now somebody's going to package it and then we tunify it.
That's
we
great.
take it, we make it more like our brand, and then we come out with it.
You have the system to do that now, not the franchise system, but the system of your mastermind and your coaches. Yeah. And so you can quickly get things out there and implement. How do you go from, you had an idea yesterday to implementation? How many ideas did you have yesterday?
We probably did 3 things yesterday that came out. We had a couple more because we had our staff meeting. We do a virtual Zoom staff meeting so that we can all talk and and we came up with some more things today and we tasked it out. And my team is just fast. I mean, they know to get things done. We just get it all done really quickly and they just work. I mean, you never see people like just gathering just to chit chat because they're always because here's the thing. When I hire people, Eric, one of the things I tell them is, listen, I'm hiring you because I think you could probably run a business and I'm going to ask you to give that dream up and I want you to give it to 200 more people. I think that when I tell my team that, and then I tell them, listen, look at the sacrifice that they're making. They're pulling this out. Their family depends on this. And my staff is just like, they are all in. They're just like, these guys it's their heart, they just want them to be successful.
I love it. Let's talk about some of your franchisees. Like, what's their background? Is it mostly men, women, husband and wife team, or just a mixture of everybody?
It is a mixture of everybody. I mean, the one trend that we noticed probably starting in 2018. So I became president in 2017. 2018, we started seeing a lot more female owners. I don't know that that's a coincidence. I kind of think they They were kind of leaning towards this idea of female leadership, right? We also started seeing a younger group of people buying franchises. That 30-year-old, that 32-year-old. And that was the first group of kids that grew up on HGTV. So they always had HGTV. Now, that didn't make them handy necessarily, because most of our people don't come in with a lot of background in construction.
Yep.
Most of them come in and they like the idea of the reveal. Like, wow, you mean at the end people are going to like cry and hug me? And I'm like, probably.
Doesn't that happen?
All the time.
Really?
Every day. People, because it's an emotional connection. You think about what your kitchen does for your family and how it provides nourishment and how you guys, that's where your conversations happen. So when you are going to transform the space, even if it's a little transformation, if whatever it is that person is overwhelmed, they don't really feel that same way maybe when they do windows or something, because that's just a necessity of having a house, right?
Yep.
But the kitchen's usually a choice. And so for a lot of people, they do get the cookies, they get the pies, we used to always say we're the brand that hugs. And I'm thinking we may have to pivot for just a little bit.
Yes.
And we may be, the brand that, bumps elbows. I don't know.
Yeah. Or does a virtual hug or
hugs.
Something.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's so interesting that times are changing. It's going to be interesting to see brands that pivot and have a permanent pivot, not just a temporary thing. I'm in the fitness space, there's a lot of things going on in that whole industry right now. And nobody knows how it's all going to shake out. And you probably got your ear to the ground on all the different bills that are coming out. And I'm watching it right now on the computer, hoping there's going to be some relief for some of these franchisees and franchisors. But that's what I think is, a lot of these franchisors over the years have taken on a lot of debt, and they're not really positioned to go through a downturn. A lot of franchisees are the same. It's interesting, like right now, everything's just exponential for people. If you're highly leveraged, you're probably in pretty big trouble. But if you've managed your money wisely and have a surplus of cash that you were going to use to grow and expand, but now you're using it to survive and to see what happens, those brands are getting to be a lot more attractive. It doesn't matter how many franchises you sold last year, the last 2 years. It's like how many are open and how strong is that franchise system. So
That's
you
right.
positioned yourself. You said it sounds like it's always been that way, and your dad is really wise, and that's how he did it, right?
He just definitely, had gone through enough in his life from financial standpoints, throughout his childhood and into adulthood, where he realized right away that you always wanted to have cash on hand. And you never really wanted to borrow. So when he started Kitchen Tune-Up, he started it with his own money. He didn't borrow any money. And then he continued every year he made money, and he just always made sure. So it was always lean, right? People would come in and say, wow, you guys have a small team, but you guys are really effective. And I think that, this year, we did a couple of things preparing for this busy, busy year. We already put in 19 franchises this year. And
wow.
we had
We're in March right now.
I know.
And you have 19 new franchises?
Right. Yeah. And we had like a 38% sales growth already.
Wow.
That going into it, you're like, you're just, the trajectory was already pushing us already there. And we are just very blessed to say that we did not overspend on things. We put in some new office space, but we did it very bare minimum. Some of my team is like, hey, I could do that. We don't have to hire anybody. But they've always been like that. They've always been like, could we do it? Could we do something that would make it, so we're not just spending money. And so if you come to our office, our home office isn't anything super fancy, it's great. It works, and people are happy to see that. I've never had anybody come in and say, wow, I thought you guys would have a lot more gold and silver. They've always said, I appreciate that you guys don't waste money. And we don't. I've
been a part of franchises that are both. Some are really flashy and they have all the cool stuff. And that's been a trend lately. The more people have been getting, like the Google type environments. And as I go there and I'm like, God, this is really cool. I'd even want to actually work there because it's such a great place to work. But then I've been a part of other brands that they're just not flashy. They don't have the nice stuff in there, but appreciate that because I know they're not spending their money on that type of thing. So, and especially now, going through coronavirus, I'm glad those franchisors that have really don't have a lot of debt, don't have a lot of extra expenses, and they can weather the storm just like us franchisees that have done the same thing. What do you see happening in the future? What do you predict for the rest of the year for you guys?
I really think based on the amount of traffic. So our franchise development traffic has not slowed down at all. If anything, I mean, we had 5 applications last week. I'm doing 2 approval calls this week. Things haven't changed. I think what's going to happen is SBA is going to open up, right? And
Yes.
it's going to allow people that maybe have always wanted this to maybe go for it.
Yeah.
Even with this, and that's, to me, that's an entrepreneur anyway, because everyone's going to have some fear. It's whether or not you overcome it or not.
That's it. I think there's going to be better owners coming into the franchising game because they're ready, because they don't have this dream that it's just, I just, show up and money just falls out of the sky. Like
Right.
They know that the business environment is not going to be easy moving forward. You have to make the decisions. You have to be ready to hustle, and you have to be resilient. But there's so much opportunity, and you're right. I think there's going to be money coming in from the SBA, and the government will be injecting money in. And it might even not just be a loan. It might come in forms of, like actually money from the government to help small business owners to get the economy kickstarted again. I love that. So from a marketing standpoint, are you guys doubling down on marketing spend, or just kind of keeping it the same right now? What are you guys doing? What are you seeing in like cost per click and things like that?
Right. All I know was, I don't have it right in front of me number wise, but I know that the last 2 weeks we've been checking our online pay-per-click that we do nationally for our owners. We had double the clicks through and leads than we had the month before. And so everyone's online right now for whatever that means, right? And I'm hearing from the owners that are right now able to still be open and they're following all the protocols. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's being unsafe here. Everybody's doing that. And those that are doing that, they're like, they're having a hard time keeping up with the amount of traffic. So they are not, I said, the biggest thing is you never stop marketing, right?
Yep.
Because you have to continue to have your name out there, but you might shift your message.
Yes.
Lean into a little different messaging right now, because if you don't, you're going to look like somebody that either is not aware of what's going on, or you're going to just look like somebody that's out there trying to get the money. Because I know there was some talk I don't remember what the talk was. Oh, I know it was about, should we say we sanitize or that we can decontaminate? I said, you know what? Let's not lean into that message right now. It's not who we ever were. And I don't think that we should become that right now, because I don't know that we even have any testing to show that that's true. I mean, our tune-up does take off all the grime off your cabinets, but does it do anything for a bacteria? So I didn't want to lean into a message that we hadn't really, that one to me was too quick, too fast but we could do a lot of other things during this time. And, our owners I think some are going to definitely keep marketing. I think some will, obviously they're applying for the SBA disaster loans, things like that. I've also heard that as of last night, it looks like they're going to probably open up the retirement funds, 401, without any penalties and stuff.
That's what I was waiting for that.
Yep. And it's not, I think it's in talks. I don't know that they've done it yet, but that is going to change everything, right?
Yes.
Because people probably do have some money there. And if they do need a little, like I said, if you have faith that this is all going to come around, that we are a community and a culture in the USA, that we're going to come back. We're going to bounce back stronger than we ever have.
Yeah.
And because of that, and then there's this whole thing where people started to realize we need our local businesses. And maybe we didn't appreciate it before as much, right? Because Amazon was there and you could click the button. And now people are like going, you know what? We did not give enough. And now they want to help out their local businesses. I think we're going to see that happen. And just like anything in this world, the change that we see, the pivot that we see as a culture, it won't be long-term, right? No. It's going to be a short-term time. And I think if you are positioned for it and you're ready for that and you're having the right conversations today, I think that you're going to be set up well, whether it's 2 months out, maybe it's 2 weeks out, or if it's, even into the fall.
Yep.
I just think that we have to be there as business owners for our communities. And then they'll be there for us.
Tell me more about your mastermind, like the franchisee mastermind for franchisees. Because I've been working on putting together a mastermind for all franchisees across all systems.
Oh, nice.
And I was going to have a live event in Nashville, but now I'm just trying to give as much value inside my franchisee Facebook group. But I love it when franchisors are taking care of their top performers like that. So tell me about that franchisee mastermind that you have within your system.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. It came up a little bit as an accident because we do a big State of the Franny in January once we get all of our numbers. And I do this big live webinar where our whole system attends. And I give them what happened. I give them goals for the year. And one of the goals was, I was talking about how we want every owner to have an increase, whether it's double or whether it's 5% increase. And whoever was listening, one of my top performers said, he heard me say that everyone should double their sales. And so he went into our private Facebook group and he said, hey, after Heidi said this on the State of the Franny, who wants to be in a group to double their sales? And he got 98 comments after he wrote that. And so he called me and said, Heidi, now what do I do? I think I created a monster. And I said, well, let's do this. Let's create a couple masterminds, because there's a real difference when you're over $1 million franchise and when you're under $1 million. Yep. And if you're over $1 million and you're looking to double, or you're under $1 million and you're trying to double, but you won't even get to $1 million, those are two different situations. I said, let's create two different masterminds. Mm-hmm. We'll set it up. And we created a Google Doc that we shared and we invited everyone in. And then we started to put agendas together and so then we were going to meet monthly, and everybody said, this is too beneficial. We need to meet weekly. I said, okay, well, we're going to meet weekly. And so even when I'm traveling, I'm on the mastermind, at 3:00 on Mondays. And we just make sure that, and everybody shows up. And these are the these are the biggest franchises that would be busy, but on Mondays at 3:00, they're there.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a really telling, thing. And we use Zoom for our recording, and then that gets recorded in case somebody would miss a week. We have them all recorded and set up so that they are sequential. We're not going to go back over something if we've already covered it. We bring guest speakers. So we bring in people. Like yesterday, we brought in a great marketer, Rich Harshaw, who wrote Unlimited Leads Contracting. He does level 10 contracting. He came in and spoke to everybody about what to do right now. And so,
what did he say?
Yeah, the same thing we've been talking about. He said, here's the thing. He goes, listen, guys, if you're going to do do like a Blair Witch project when you take your iPhone and do a little bit of a video to people, make that your TV commercial right now. Like, here's what's going on. We're home like you are. To have an honest conversation with people. And then he talked about the Facebook messaging and how Facebook, for whatever reason, well, we know why, everyone's home, but the last 4 weeks have been crazy. In the last 2 weeks, the acceleration, if you're not on Facebook right now, you're missing the biggest opportunity for communication. So we've got a few owners that haven't really embraced it fully. And today I tasked my team to just get them on there, and we're just going to do it for them. Because I said they're just missing an opportunity. So let's just do it for them.
And there are going to be owners in any system that are just behind on this stuff. They just don't do it.
Yeah. But technology for some people can be a little bit nerve-wracking. And we've introduced a lot of new technology this year. Mm-hmm. Actually, last 3 years, we have introduced with a new operating system. And we've been putting in our podcast that we do. We have a private podcast for our owners. And that's a lot of new technology for people to get to. But I'll tell you, the podcast right now, if you're a franchisor, you need a podcast for your system, because every day I talk to them, and I record it about 4:30 the night before, so they get it at 6 a.m. the next day. And it's something to keep them. And they keep emailing me and saying, Heidi, thank you so much. These positive little notes, knowing that, just hearing your voice every day is making a difference.
So when you say podcast, do you put it on iTunes, or is it on like an intranet?
It's Podbean, and you can do a private channel there. So we have a couple of private channels. So depending on which one they're looking at, whether it's the daily little 5-minute, So
Podbean is the software or the service that publishes it.
That's right.
And I use Libsyn, which Podbean's a similar type one, but you can take it, instead of you having it to the public, you can make it more private or have limitations on it.
That's right. Yeah, you can just invite only to it, or you can certainly, put it out there. But ours is, I do phone conversations like what we're doing right now with our owners. And we record those and put those up there. Our mastermind, we just edit parts of it. We give it to everybody, though, because everybody should be able to hear. Yeah. I mean, they're aspiring to get there. I mean, just the group itself, it wouldn't be as manageable if you didn't have, 12 people in it. If it was like 100 people, it would be hard to manage it.
What do you most love about your company?
I mean, the people. I mean, I'm a people person. I love the people. I love my team here at the home office. And I do love our owners. I mean, I always feel like somehow I got to be mom. And I'm not sure how that happened. I came in my late 30s, and, now I'm in my 50s. And I think to myself, all of a sudden I'm mom. And some of these people are, been here longer, but they definitely look at you as that person that, they need some nurturing. They need having to know that they're being taken care of.
Yep.
So if that's the role that needs to be played for people, to feel good, and they obviously want a good business person. They want somebody that's, with the trends and understands, the business inside and out. That is kind of the bare basics of what you need to be. After that, it's about what are you going to bring to the table that's a little bit different. And for us, they say the family feel is what they love the most. They know that they can call in and talk to us. And so every day when you help somebody, I don't care if it's just a quick email telling you, I mean, that's what we do this for. I mean, you wake up and you go, if I helped anybody today be happier, a little bit better in their business, if they had an aha moment today because of a conversation, then man, we're doing our jobs.
Well, I think there's one thing for certain. people now know us South Dakotans know how to podcast. We know how to communicate with our teams. We know how to mastermind. I've spent a ton of money being a part of some fantastic masterminds, and to, right now in this environment, I am relying on the experts in these masterminds more than ever before. And they are giving really good direction, and they are giving really good information, and they're bringing on these special guests. I've got Kevin Harrington coming onto the podcast. He's a original shark from Shark Tank, but one of my masterminds has him coming on into a group chat with us for a while in a Zoom call. But it's like we get access to these, anyone in a mastermind is going to get access to stuff that you normally don't have access to. And so that's what I love about masterminds, and it just elevates everybody, like you said. So I love how you're just, when you talked about communication earlier, I think now people understand the level of communication you have to your franchisees. It's no wonder they love you, and no wonder you're growing right now, because I love validation. Franchisors that have validation, where people can talk to franchisees that have been around for a while, and they can actually talk about how they're really doing, not just how quickly they bought the last franchise that they bought. If someone was to hear your franchisees talk about the system, what do you think your franchisees would be saying?
Well, I hear it all the time, because when I do my approval calls, usually people like to tell me the owners they've talked to and what they've said about the business. And they always say, the one thing I always hear about, you guys are the best people to work with. And I said, great. And you guys have such great training. Great. I love hearing that. So they like to tell me what they're hearing. And interestingly, I've got about 12 franchises that have been with us over 20 years. So they came in under my dad.
Yeah.
Because I've been here 7, and they came in and went through that leadership. And some of them have come back to training now. I've got one that's been with us 27 years in Michigan, and he came back to training in December, and he goes, this is a different thing. This business is so different. And I'm like, and how are you feeling about that? How do you feel about all these changes? He goes, I'm so impressed. He goes, I can't believe I got in this deal way back 27 years ago.
That's awesome.
I mean, I think that right now the owners are, obviously right now today, some of them are nervous, but I think they trust that, what, we've got a plan. Mm-hmm. We're going to continue to pivot. We're there with them every minute of the day. they can call and they can talk to us. And because of that, I think they feel like they're not alone. And in this time right now, when we're social isolating, feeling alone is one of the worst things ever.
I love it. Well, thanks for coming on. Any last bits of wisdom for anybody?
Guys, here's the thing. I gave this advice to my franchises when this all started happening. I said, it's so easy to ingest negativity right now because it's everywhere. And here's the thing. When your brain is seeing information and hearing information, and if it's getting it, at 10 times the amount, pretty soon you start to believe that you're in some serious danger. Your brain starts to see that the world is scary and negative. And so what I said to them, I said, for every 1 hour that you ingest negative, I want you to find an hour of positive. Yep. And here's some books that you can read. And here are some things you can watch. And do something positive, because your brain needs to believe that there's just as much good happening right now as there is bad, so that you don't believe and go down this rabbit hole of, because that's the lens in which we look at our world. Yep. Is negative or positive, right? And so you get to choose what you ingest, and you can ingest more positive if you want.
That's great. I think I hear business owners that are in this negative headspace right now. I'm like, it's okay to be there for a little bit, but you've got to come out of that, because if you don't come out of that, you are going to lose out on some opportunity. Sure, a lot of people are losing a lot of money right now. Everybody's losing money right now.
And that's what makes us all the same.
Yeah. Was it real money to begin with? Was your equity real? Was just what you had in the stock market real? It doesn't matter. It's all it's decreasing for everybody. So did you really decrease? And if you did, double down now. Now is the time to double down. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm doing it smart. I'm not just, freely just spending money and buying whatever. I'm definitely in that same frame of mind. There's going to be a lot of money to be made this year in 2020.
There will be.
Just before I got off on this with you, I was talking to Brian Holmes, my podcast co-host of The Franchise Story and really good friend. And we are both in the same mindset. Like, what are we doing? How are we going to capitalize on this for ourselves in this environment? Yeah, there's a lot of good things ahead. And I can't wait for it. So we might have to get back on next year and do a recap of how right were we or wrong were we? But I have no doubt, like you and me and people that have the same mindset that we have, we're going to grow and we're going to come out of this better than we were going into it.
I agree.
Well, thanks again. Anyone out there, how can they find you if they want to just learn more about you?
Sure. If they want to learn about me, just go on LinkedIn and look for Heidi Morrissey and you'll find me and I will be happy to link in with you there. If you want to look at Kitchen Tune-Up, Kitchen Tune-Up's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to find us, we're there.
We'll put the links in the notes and we'll talk to you later. Thanks again. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.